Let me ask you something right out of the gate. If a viral YouTube video can trigger a federal surge by the FBI and Homeland Security, who's really in control of the narrative right now? Is this a long overdue fraud crackdown? Is this political targeting? Or is this what happens when online outrage forces the government's hand? Because what's unfolding right now in Minnesota isn't just about fraud. It's about power, perception, and who gets believed first. And here's the real question. If this wasn't serious, why did federal agents go door to door? If that question already has you fired up, hit the like button and let's get into it.
The investigation of alleged massive Medicaid fraud in Minnesota is taking a new turn based on a viral video. Homeland Security agents visited dozens of daycare centers and health clinics in Minneapolis on Monday after a well-known YouTube personality claimed more than 24 of these facilities were being used as fronts for fraud.
All right, let's slow this down and get clear on the facts, because there's a lot of noise out there right now. Federal agencies, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, have officially surged investigative resources into Minnesota. We're talking about investigators on the ground, inspecting sites they say are suspected of abusing federal funds. Some of those sites? Daycare centers. Now this isn't brand new. This investigation traces back to 2022, originally focused on COVID relief fraud. According to federal officials, more than 75 arrests have already happened, with dozens of convictions tied to earlier cases. But what reignited this story, what lit the match, was a viral video by YouTuber Nick Shirley. That video exploded online, pulling in over 100 million views across platforms, and it was amplified by some of the most powerful figures in the country. Vice President J.D. Vance retweeted it. Elon Musk amplified it. And shortly after, the FBI director publicly stated that additional resources were being deployed. Now pause right there. That sequence matters, because it raises a massive question about how investigations escalate in the modern media era. The FBI says this surge was already underway, that resources were being moved even before the video went viral. DHS says agents are conducting inspections and going door to door at suspected fraud sites. And officials say they believe this is just the tip of the iceberg. At the same time, Minnesota state officials are pushing back. Governor Tim Walz's office says the state has been cracking down on fraud for years. They point to audits, closed facilities, increased oversight, outside law firms, and even the complete shutdown of certain programs due to abuse. They say investigations are ongoing, but also caution against jumping to conclusions. And here's where things get complicated. CNN's reporting notes that while massive fraud absolutely has occurred in Minnesota, including hundreds of millions tied to earlier cases, some of the newer allegations tied directly to daycare centers haven't yet been backed by confirmed findings. So now we're sitting in this uncomfortable space between two truths. Yes, fraud has happened. And yes, some accusations are still unproven. That tension is what's driving the outrage. And this brings us to the comments. Because wow, people are not holding back. Let's start with this one. One viewer said, "Wow, a week later because everyone knows now. Why call yourselves news?" That comment alone has hundreds of likes. And what that tells you is this. People don't just want information anymore. They want speed. If news doesn't show up instantly, trust evaporates. Another comment says, "Alleged fraud? It is fraud." That's anger talking. And I get it. When taxpayers hear alleged over and over, it feels like institutions are hedging, protecting someone, or dragging their feet. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Words matter legally. Alleged isn't protection, it's procedure. The problem is, most Americans don't trust that procedure anymore. Then there's this one. How about CNN sends a journalist to investigate instead of quoting politicians? This comment blew up. And honestly, that criticism hits hard. Because people are tired of press conferences. They want questions asked directly. They want accountability, not spin. Here's another. Arrest any corrupt politician, left or right. That's not partisan rage. That's system fatigue. That's Americans saying, we don't care who it is anymore. Just stop protecting power. Now listen to this one. CNN is trying to make this about Trump. That comment sparked a war in the replies. And it reveals the divide perfectly. One side sees political targeting. The other sees legitimate scrutiny. And both sides are convinced the media is framing it wrong. And finally, this comment. Why won't they show the obvious clip proving fraud? This is where misinformation and distrust collide. Because once people believe evidence is being hidden, everything else becomes suspension. ECT. So let's zoom out. This story isn't just about Minnesota. It's about how investigations now move in the age of viral content. A YouTuber publishes a video. Millions watch. Powerful figures amplify it. Federal agencies respond, or appear to respond. And suddenly, people are asking, who drives enforcement now? Institutions or outrage? There's also a dangerous undercurrent here that needs to be addressed carefully. When investigations overlap with immigration, race, or refugee communities, the stakes get higher. Allegations can easily turn into generalizations. And that's where facts must lead, not emotion. At the same time, shielding wrongdoing because of fear of backlash destroys trust just as fast. This is the tightrope. Real fraud must be prosecuted. Real communities must not be smeared. And real transparency must exist. If any one of those fails, the system breaks. So what happens now? More inspections, more subpoenas, more political pressure, especially with elections approaching. Governor Walz's future is now tied to how convincing voters find his response. Federal agencies are signaling this investigation is far from over. And creators? They're now undeniably part of the political ecosystem, whether anyone likes it or not. So here's where I leave it to you. Do you think this investigation was inevitable or accelerated by viral pressure? Do you trust federal agencies to separate real fraud from political noise? And should YouTubers have this much influence over national enforcement priorities? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading them. If you found this breakdown valuable, smash the like button. Subscribe to Breaking Supporters for daily commentary that doesn't dodge hard questions. And in the next video, we're digging into something even bigger: how online narratives are quietly reshaping law enforcement nationwide. Stay sharp, stay questioning. I'll see you in the next one.